Good morning, wrestling fans. Welcome to PWR. Today, it's Friday morning. It's February 19th, 2021. I'm the man they call Meathead. And one more time for the rest of the week, it's Matthew Thomas. Good morning, Matthew.
Hey, Meathead, are those chips?
Are those chips?
You know what I'm talking about?
No, elaborate.
That was my favorite line from the show we're going to recap tonight.
Oh, yeah.
Young Rock. That show had some really good little one-liners. If you blink, you might miss. But that was one of my favorite parts of the episode. Just that's what you say when you're trying to pick up a member of the opposite sex. You just yell out your window, "Are those chips?"
Well, we'll get to that in a second. And I'm glad that you led with that because you know what? I was pleasantly surprised with it. Well, we'll get to it. Let's talk about our sponsors, Manscaped.com, which Young Rock might not have been using when he was 16, but he probably had to use when he turned 17. Because the Young Rock looked like what did they say? He looked like an uncle or like a cop in school.
Yeah, not a narc, man. I guess
he looked like he was from 21 Jump Street.
Yeah, that's what they were going for.
Well, our sponsor, Manscaped.com. Obviously, you don't want to use that when you're trying to buy alcohol. PWR saves you 20% on the manscaping grooming tools that you're going to need when you're manscaping. Just like our friend Dave Hero says, get yourself silky smooth. And then collarandelbowbrand.com, maybe some of the latest and greatest wrestling gear could have helped out Young Rock.
I got to go back there a second about alcohol. You don't show people your genitals when you buy alcohol, do you?
I don't know what city you're from, but let's talk about the promo code PWR360. It'll save you 10% from collarandelbowbrand.com. So Matthew, let's get into it right away. Young Rock, I was pleasantly surprised. This is going to be a show that I probably will watch weekly, and I enjoy it. I love the premise, the setup. It's a goof, obviously, that Rock is running for president.
Yeah.
At the end, Randall Park is really the actor's name. He plays Agent Wu currently on WandaVision.
Yeah.
He's also Matthew said you're watching WandaVision, right?
Yeah. Ready for the newest episode to come out today.
Yeah, it came out at 2
I guess
a.m.
it's already available. I try to make that. I try to use WandaVision as my Friday night.
Delight.
My Friday night delight, my TGIF, that show that I look forward to on Friday. So I'm going to wait a little while and watch it. I'm not going to watch it at midnight Eastern, which I guess technically in that case,
it's not midnight Eastern. I mean, that might be when you're watching it. It does come out at 3 a.m. Eastern on Fridays.
Oh, is it 3 a.m.? Okay. Never mind then.
Only because one day I couldn't fall asleep till 2 a.m. Central. You know what? WandaVision's on. I guess I'm not falling asleep. Let's just put on the new WandaVision. And there it was. So, hey, I got to ask you real quick about WandaVision before we go back into talking about Young Rock. Did you notice that when Agent Wu introduced himself to Sergeant Rambo, the little trick he did with handing her his business card?
I don't think I noticed that.
You know who he learned it from? Scott Lang. Remember in Ant-Man and the Wasp? Where he was learning magic tricks because he was on lockdown.
Well, so let me get your take on this because I guess we can be if you haven't watched WandaVision and might want to fast forward a little bit because I'm going to ask you something.
Spoiler alert!
Not super spoiler, but after last week's episode, where do we what time frame are we in this week's episode? Do you think?
I hope it's the 90s.
Yeah, because, we got a little bit of, if you saw that car lot when they did their little thing, that car lot didn't go back to a 1990s car lot. And the other thing is, we're running out of, we're almost current time in the Wanda sitcom. So I don't know. I'm really curious about today's episode.
Well, hopefully you don't go too fast through it like Quicksilver does. So. There you go. All right. So enough spoiling about WandaVision here, which, again, I'm absolutely loving. Looking forward to watching a little bit of Falcon and the Winter Soldier, which will come up directly after WandaVision. But let's talk Young Rock and what kind of made us diverge off of it. Randall Park is in there interviewing Rock as he's running for president. And I love the bouncing back and forth between Rock at the college level, Rock at the high school level, and Rock as the prepubescent teen level. I love the characters. They're all made up. obviously, as in, that's not the real person. It's not the real Sheik. It's not the real JYD because, well, he's dead. Andre the Giant. We saw the Wild Samoans. I love it. It's fun. I think Rock's mom is popping on screen right now as well on there. I think she's doing great. Rocky Johnson, the Soul Man Rocky Johnson, he's not being portrayed in the best of light. However, he's being portrayed in a real light, and you can see that Rock still loves him. But, he's talking about the business, living the gimmick, as the phrase, right?
Yeah, no, it's a very interesting show. I mean, we're one episode in, but I think there's a little something for everybody. There's something for wrestling fans. It makes it very nice and accessible for people that are not wrestling fans.
Yeah, a non-wrestling fan could watch this.
And, I walked away from it. I mean, it's got a nice wholesome feel to it.
Yeah. And, that's funny about wrestling, because look at wrestling over the last 10 years. It has finally made it into the mainstream. Look at the TV shows right now that are wrestling based. I mean, they got that series on Stars that's coming up.
Yeah, and it's so interesting that, the business and the behind the scenes business is to the point where you can actually have a series like this on network primetime television. And I mean,
not just network primetime television, the original network. NBC is the original.
Yeah, and I'm watching this, and I'm, what really, the thought that goes through my head at this point, you've got to say The Rock is the most successful person to come from the professional wrestling industry. I personally think
he's beat Hogan by far.
I think he has displaced Hogan, and here's the only thing that might have to restructure that phrase. I think when you ask people to name, hey, just the average person off the street, name a professional wrestler, Hogan still might take it, because I think you've got a generation of people now, and I'm not saying generation in anything implying an age, but I don't even know if the common person off the street now recognizes The Rock as a wrestler anymore.
Correct. And he doesn't go by The Rock. It's Dwayne Johnson.
Yeah. So I want to, basically walk that back a little bit. I mean, I think when you look at mainstream popularity as far as somebody who has transcended the industry into a mainstream light, it's The Rock. But I think he's transcended it to the point that, I'd be very curious if you just took a poll of just the average American who even necessarily correlates him with professional wrestling anymore.
Right. And then, John Cena, honestly, I think has beaten Hogan as well, as far as, success outside the wrestling business.
Yeah.
But Rock has far and away blown him away, as in Rock. Dwayne Johnson now belongs to Hollywood.
Yeah.
I mean, he comes back in and works wrestling because wrestling is, where he started. But John Cena, we haven't seen John Cena in almost a year. There's still talk that he's going to show up at WrestleMania this year, but we haven't seen it yet. So
yeah, he's got to get ready for that Pat McAfee match.
Knock it off.
I've sold myself even more on that idea.
So you're just going to continue to say it every week, hoping that it lands, huh?
John Cena versus Pat McAfee, and Sting is the storyline father.
Sting is the storyline. See, I would have went with you. I would have offered you some legitimacy if you would have stayed with Cena and McAfee. Sting, now you just lost it. You're done.
I mean, hey, that's an interesting story to tell. And remember,
what is Claire Lynch up to?
Hey, I mean, she's been off of TV long enough that I think there would definitely be a big pop there. Regarding what company you brought her in, I mean, yeah, WWE might want to shy away from it, but I think that's something. I think that's worth an email to Tony Khan.
He will open his forbidden door for Claire Lynch
in a minute,
without even a handshake or dinner.
Yeah, she doesn't even have to knock. That thing's going to already be open.
Good God. How is that still a thing? But it's a thing. So Young Rock, I don't know if they had like a 8 episode, what they ordered for the season, but this is something I could watch. I want to see the different aspects of his life. I want to see him, playing football. I want to see him, hanging out, with the wrestlers as a young, jabroni beaten, fanny pack wearing, Rocky Maivia. I want to see all of that. I'm excited to see it. I want to see what younger Vince McMahon looks like. We saw Macho Man already in promos. Is Hogan going to show up? What other guys are going to be there? That's the stuff that has me excited for it.
Once we start going, a little bit deeper and maybe having multiple seasons, I'd like to get Waffle's backstory.
Waffle. Unfortunately, Waffle no longer exists, but I still tear up when I get to a Waffle House.
I want a Waffle-centric episode, if not season.
Okay. I want to know if he ever got arrested for stealing that jacket.
You know what's going to be awesome though, because at one point you've most likely heard the story about JR meeting Rock when he signed him, and Rock not having any money in his pocket. How nice of an effect would it be if you just had modern day JR playing past JR?
Okay. I mean, if you remember way back in the day, Rocky Johnson was played by Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson on that 70s show.
Oh.
Do you remember that?
Now, yeah, it rings a bell.
Because they went to the wrestling matches one night, and Soul Man Rocky Johnson was played by The Rock. Also there working a match with Jeff and Matt Hardy.
Interesting. Yeah. We
Okay.
need, if Vader was still alive, he could probably get his acting.
Vader had a little TGIF going on.
Yeah, he did. Because
what was
Corey
he on?
Matthews.
Boy Meets World?
Boy Meets World. Yep.
Okay, I never watched it. I just knew he was there. So
yeah, I wasn't a huge Boy Meets World fan. That was kind of after my TGIF fandom started to dwindle down a little bit. I never quite could get into.
Fair enough. All right.
Boy Meets World.
Well, hey, that was our talk about non-wrestling, wrestling-related stuff. I mean, I joke and I kid and jokes aside, but literally has wrestling not really come into the limelight finally? The show on Stars. I mean, you've got Glow that's always been on Netflix for a long while. I believe there's another one being developed for another channel somewhere. I can't remember the name of it, but their wrestling is primetime TV now.
Well, and you always hear the statement made as far as mainstream popularity, the wrestling's cyclical. You had the explosion in the 80s, and then you had to get hot again in the late 90s. And it seems like it's a little ways past that normal cycle. But I think we're coming to an area now where it is, finally what is getting established is these kind of peeks behind the curtains and kind of the mainstream public just getting a little bit more of, oh, this is what they do. I mean, it's going back to Young Rock. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of kind of, inside behind the scenes type of deal in episode 1. So I think there may be a little bit of that, and honestly, that's really what brought me back into it. I had kind of drifted a little bit, and it really wasn't until that initial wave of WWE endorsed books where they just said, okay, Shawn Michaels, okay, whoever, go ahead, write your book, pull the curtain as far back as you want to. That's really what grabbed me again. It's like, oh, so everything is out there, and this is treated much more, it's treated much more like how you would discuss a movie or a TV show. This is really interesting. And I think there's a little bit of that appetite in the general public.
Yeah. And, with all the TV channels looking for content, COVID doing what it did to Hollywood, where there wasn't as much content going out there, they're starved and they're craved for more content. So, kind of like right after the writer's strike, I mean, there was, kind of a gap in original content coming out. So wrestling has made it all the way. I mean, with the signing of WWE to Fox TV, that really even opened the door more that, look, it has now been accepted into Americana.
Well, not only that, I mean, you have the Fox deal, and, now you've got the Peacock deal. Right. So it's like WWE really making themselves known on, major networks here.
Yeah, and wrestling used to be the dirty secret that you talk with your kids, or talking, amongst your friends when you were kids, excuse me, that, yeah, we watched wrestling, but it wasn't anything. Your parents used to, give you a hard time for watching it or whatever. No, it's there. So let's move on. Let's talk about some wrestling, and let's talk about what's coming up tonight on SmackDown. Matthew, we are getting our favorite thing. Not only did we get it on NXT this week, not only did we get it on AEW this week, guess what the main event is on SmackDown tonight?
I would say it's going to be a multi-person tag team match.
Holla, holla, holla. 6-man tag. And guess what? There's a big Elimination Chamber match coming up this Sunday. 3 faces and 3 heels in it. Guess what the match is tonight?
6-man tag.
And on each side, 3 faces and 3 heels. Owens, Bryan, Cesaro battle Uso, Corbin, and Zayn. Barf. I mean, barf. Because, dude, please tell me that you couldn't come up with anything better than this.
Yep. And we've seen WWE at some points in the not too distant past actually, go into a show like this and, maybe further a mid-card storyline or something that wasn't even on the, the show. So, like, that's my favorite go home is where, yeah, everything is set, but you're actually still getting business done and still developing stuff, if not for the pay-per-view, working on storylines that are going to pay off down the road. And tonight's not that case, unfortunately.
Yeah. Now let's move on to the Chamber on Sunday. And really, there's only 4 official announced matches. 2 of them are going to be big, huge matches. But there's a difference between the Chamber matches. First, let's talk about the one that has the champion in it. WWE Champion Drew McIntyre will go up against 5 former WWE champions. Hardy, Orton, Styles, Kofi just entered in there. Sheamus. Does Drew McIntyre make it out of the Chamber retaining the belt?
I don't think so. I really don't. Like we've talked about on this program, I think you have got to have him win that title again at Mania. And I just don't feel like I don't feel like him defending the title at Mania is necessarily as big as him, regaining the title at Mania. Maybe he survives the Chamber and doesn't survive a Miz cash in, or maybe, we have Sheamus come out on top, Sheamus gets cashed in on, and then you have Miz and Sheamus at Fastlane to see who gets McIntyre at Mania. But I don't think Drew makes it out of this one.
I believe that we both agree on that. However, somehow Drew McIntyre leaves the night still champion. I don't know how it's going to make sense for storyline, but I believe McIntyre gets out of Elimination Chamber that night still as a champion.
The interesting thing and what makes me go that direction is Miz became a serious threat once again on Monday night. Up until Monday night, I did not take Miz as a serious threat. He held the briefcase, but this Miz that we were seeing with Morrison, while it was entertaining, it was not somebody that I took seriously. Miz flipped that gear. He flipped that switch. He got that extra gear on Monday night. And, who knows, maybe it's just to work somebody like me, so it's believable, but I don't know that you would put the briefcase in Miz's hands or, get him ready as quick as you've gotten him ready if there was not something to come out of this. So, yeah, I mean, it's not going to surprise me if Drew walks away, but I just feel like there's way too much at play here and I think that, man, it's going to be too much of the same thing if you've got 2 champions defending at Mania. Well, that's kind of counterintuitive, but 2 of the longer reigning champions defending at Mania, I feel like it's going to get a little shaken up between now and that first week in April.
So let me put this out there. Besides Jeff Hardy and now how they just added in Kofi, and I think they added in Kofi because Kofi was healthy enough to go. Who else would have fit the criteria of former WWE champion in this match?
Brock Lesnar.
Okay. On an active roster. Brock Lesnar is not wrong, but on the active roster.
Is Strowman in the chamber? He's not in the chamber, is he?
Well, he threatened Adam Pearce, but he was Universal Champion.
Yeah, that's true. My goodness. Yeah. Oh, man.
I'm not trying to talk down about Hardy, but I feel like Hardy is working these opening match promos, and then when they need somebody and the criteria fits, they put Hardy into the match.
Yeah.
And now Hardy's top level again.
No, that seems reasonable.
Okay. But you make a good case there. Lesnar could show up and beat up any one of these guys and take their spot. He's done it before.
Yeah.
He won Money in the Bank, remember?
Yeah. And again, we got it Mania last year, but my goodness, I mean, I don't think that gets you that's believable, and it gets you another shot at McIntyre, Lesnar, and having him take it off of him in front of people. Now that's what's being discussed, but still no official announcement on live fans in attendance.
Yeah. Here in the greater Milwaukee area, Wisconsin specifically, the Milwaukee Brewers just submitted their plan to the city of Milwaukee to have 25% for Miller Park this year. We're really excited. That looks to be, I think they said it was about 14 to 15,000 available for opening day and games going forward. With,
my goodness,
if the health crisis, continues to improve, which it is, they might, get to a more full stadium.
Man, and I mean, even 14 to 15 right now is
they'll sell it out. They already sold out spring training games,
and I mean that's semi-normal feeling,
Oh, I mean, I'll wait in line for the extra pretzel and the burger to go to opening day this year. I would do it. They already put tickets on sale for spring training down in Arizona, and they sold out games already because they're doing 2,000 to 3,000 at spring training.
Did I hear on a show earlier this week that I wasn't on that you bought a 1-pound pretzel?
Yeah, it's gone. Yeah, it said Matthew. It said feeds 3 to 6. I said feeds Meathead 3 to 6. Minutes.
Yeah. It's like those pizzas. It's like
it was a pizza box. It was a 1-pound pretzel.
What do you? What kind of condiments do you typically put on a pretzel?
So huge variety. I mean, my wife. This is kind of her deal. Sorry, we're going off topic here, but my wife, when I first met her, and this is what we used to do when we go out dates, we go out to get something to eat, she would get the fries or the whatever and dips, and I would have them bring out all sorts of different sauces so she could just bounce back and forth to the different sauces.
Not a bad idea. Yeah.
So me personally, go-to for a pretzel is cheddar cheese. Okay. I've also done honey mustard. Love me some honey mustard.
Yeah.
I will do. I don't do a ton of barbecue of anything, but a light barbecue sauce. I will also do a beer cheese. I also do at the house. I will do cream cheese.
I can see that working pretty well. Yeah, and I think that's something that a lot of people don't realize. A lot of people limit themselves to one condiment, whether it be a pretzel or a fries or something. But I think that can really
very light on the salt. So whenever you get these pretzels from any kind of sporting event, whatever, they're just doused in them. I'll ask for the one that has the lightest amount of salt on it, and I usually end up wiping half of it off.
No, that's a really good idea too, because I mean I've had pretzels like that before too, where you're just overpowered by the salt and you can hardly even taste any pretzel. It's just like
all you do is you spray the pretzel and they're just dunking it in the thing and hanging it up.
It's like you've got a carrier. It's like you've got a carrier for salt.
Right. That's all food is a lot of times. Pizza, the crust is just a delivery system for cheese and toppings.
Yes,
that's all it is. And the pretzel is not a delivery system for me to get salt. I don't need salt. But
which is very interesting. Papa Murphy's has got a pizza bowl, which is more or less just the pizza toppings without the crust. And my goodness, I mean, that's where the money's at. It's like, you lose a little bit, with the texture, but it's like that's the main event right there.
Yeah. All right. So pretzel talk part of the show is over now. Let's get back into the wrestling talk part of the show. But 1-pound Bavarian pretzel, the Milwaukee Bavarian Pretzel Company. I went back to the store the next day. And by the way, they were all gone.
Oh.
But you can order them online. Let's talk Smackdown Elimination Chamber. Speaking about people getting put in pretzels, let's talk wrestling. Cesaro, Brian Owens, Uso, Corbin, Zayn. Now, if they were going to use the gimmick that they're using on Raw, three of these individuals would not be allowed to be in this match. Cesaro, Uso, and Corbin, and Zayn, actually. Matter of fact, the only 2 world champions in here are Bryan and Owens. The other 4 have never held the belt.
I'd be very, very, very surprised at this point if we're not going Edge and Reigns. So I think that is more or less.
Here's the thing with this Elimination Chamber. The winner of this match will face Reigns later on in the evening. So that's an unofficially announced match.
Which makes all the sense to have Jey Uso win and then have him, whether willingly or begrudgingly, lay down for Reigns. It gets more heat on Reigns, and I think whets the appetite even more for Edge come Mania. So I'm actually looking at Jey Uso going over here and him actually losing in his quote-unquote match with Roman Reigns later in the evening.
What about Cesaro? Is it time?
I would not mind seeing that at all. Like, that is actually, with me just not wanting to be right for the sake of being right, that would be the most exciting proposition there, and actually having a competitive match and having Cesaro come within an inch of beating Reigns. I don't think there's any way in the world anybody's taking it off of Reigns come Elimination Chamber. But yeah, I mean, you could have a Kofi-like moment in the fact that, basically, what was it? It was Kofi in the Gauntlet match last year, right?
Yep.
Or year before last now, I guess.
Well, Kofi was being held down by the Authority, too. So.
Yeah.
Or no, Vince McMahon. Excuse me. Vince McMahon came on TV for the run to WrestleMania and put Kofi down. Yeah.
And I still think you are probably going in the direction of a Cesaro, Daniel Bryan technical classic at WrestleMania.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean, that's another option. Have Cesaro come out of the chamber on top and have him come really, really close of taking that title from Reigns. And
so what's your prediction? Who wins the chamber?
Jey Uso.
Okay. My prediction is Kevin Owens, and he loses again to Roman Reigns to finish it off.
We shall see.
I'm not saying I want to watch it again, even though those guys are amazing to watch. That's what's happening. Triple threat match, United States Championship. Red hot Bobby Lashley will take on the challengers, new kids from NXT. It'll be Riddle and Keith Lee. They're not from NXT anymore, but these guys have just gotten recent call-ups.
Yeah, as strong as Bobby Lashley has been, Riddle has just been hanging around that title for way too long now. I think Riddle walks out with the title. They've done a great job of protecting Bobby Lashley, so I don't know that Lashley is involved in the decision. But I think Riddle's walking away with this title.
Okay. Your winner and still champion, Bobby Lashley. In the last announced match, Women's Champion Asuka, is Lacey Evans ready for her or ready to wrestle with a little Flair, a little nature boy rolling around inside of her?
Yeah, Lacey's not wrestling this match. Where they go, man, I don't know. I'm not sure.
You know what I want? You know what I want to happen?
I know what you want, but I don't know that we necessarily get that. I think if that happens, it's a build and it's saved till Mania.
I want Lacey Evans to say that she can't compete, and I want them to put in a mystery opponent that hasn't been seen on NXT in about a month, and I want her to show up at the Elimination Chamber and get her run towards WrestleMania, and I want it to be Rhea Ripley.
Would not mind seeing that. I think the more likely thing at this juncture is it's Charlotte, because Charlotte's got all that pent-up energy about having, it should be excitable energy, right? She's going to have a new brother, half brother or sister.
Well, I mean, if we're bringing her real family story in, I mean, Charlotte wrestles in the spot that her brother wanted, and her brother no longer is with us. That would be awkward for me.
Yeah. So,
and we're not talking about David. We're talking about Reed, I believe.
Right. So, yeah, I mean, they're going to do something with Rhea. I mean, she's been absent from NXT. I mean, just glaringly absent. So I think she is main roster bound. Whether it happens on Sunday, I don't know. I don't think she just shows up and wins the title. If she does show up, I don't think she wins the title. I'm going more in the neighborhood of it being Charlotte as the replacement.
Well, I'm hoping it's Asuka then that retains the title, but then again, I'm thinking of myself selfishly for PWR draft. We only have 4 pay-per-views left, my friends. Chamber, AEW Revolution, Fastlane, and WrestleMania. The championship season in the Meathead 2020 and 2021 is only about a month and a half away. The coronation of the championship for the man they call Meathead is that close, my friends. So, Matthew, that's the Elimination Chamber. We will have a recap and a review and highlights, lowlights, and all the results Monday morning with the lovely Linda Kay. So, Matthew Thomas, I want you to go find yourself the Milwaukee Bavarian Pretzel Company. Order yourself a 1-pound pretzel. Again, it's supposed to feed 3 to 6, but it feeds Meathead 3 to 6 times is what it is, because I'm not sharing it anymore. Loved it. Oh, and by the way, you asked about condiments. What we did when we baked it, because you bake it in the oven, coated it with garlic butter. Oh,
that's reasonable.
It was phenomenal. Literally, that could have been a meal. It could have been dinner. Okay, enough said. For the man they call Matthew Thomas, I'm the man they call Meathead. Hey, thanks for stopping by. So long, everyone.